Indore inna utulien Sinome maruvan Arhildinjar tenambar meita. Elen, Sila, Lumen, Omentielvo. Namarie, my friend. I am so indescribably pleased to meet you. It's very rare for one of your kind, for a human being, to take interest in the Elvish language, especially to the extent that they would seek out instruction in said language. Elvish is not an easy language to learn and requires many years of dedicated, unbroken, extensive study, such that my race, with our long lifespans and unlimited patience, are often more uniquely suited to such a pursuit. As a human being, your talents typically lie elsewhere. For example, when it comes to motivation, to action, to a quick transfer of ideals into tangible reality. That would be where your species' strength generally lies. Yes, which is not to say that you're incapable of long-term intellectual pursuits, but simply that you generally don't have enough time in this world. That makes you a rarity. And you are even more so a rarity because you have chosen to study Quenya. Quenya is, as you are no doubt well aware, the Elvish equivalent of your human Latin. It is considered by some to be a dead language, and therefore not worth study. However, that line of thinking I find it to be demonstrably incorrect. For just as studying Latin gives you human beings insight into your own linguistic history and grammar and syntax, the study of Quenya gives immeasurable insight into modern Sindarin, its background, its grammatical structure, and its development as a tongue. And that makes it eminently worthy of close study. Now, I wanted to start off with very simple phrases, so that the next time you meet one of my kind, you can impress them immediately with your ability to greet them in Quenya. But first, I need to teach you a few of the fundamentals of Quenyan pronunciation. Like your human English, Quenya has 5 basic vowels, but unlike your English vowels, each of the vowels in Quenya generally has just one possible pronunciation, although I will note exceptions as I continue my explanation. Here we have the 5 Quenya vowels. First, we have this one. You human beings would generally consider this letter A. However, in Quenya, it is almost invariably pronounced A. Now, occasionally, you will see it written as so, with the accent mark indicated above, and that is simply a long A. And as it suggests, you simply hold it longer. So here we have A and A. Yes, sort of denotes emphasis. Now, the next Elvish vowel is this. E. Good. Very much like the vowel sound in your English word bet or bed. However, like e has a long variant, and it is written as so. This is long e. However, long e is pronounced very much like the a sound in your English word lake, which in turn gives us e and a. Very good. And next we have the Elvish vowel E. That's right. This is one of the more confusing points for basic level Elvish students. This is not I, but E. And it is in fact pronounced E. So be careful not to get it mixed up with your English letter E. They are entirely different characters. Now, the next letter is O. This is pronounced very much like your English vowel O. Please keep in mind it is never pronounced U or U, but simply O. Good. Now for the final Elvish vowel. This is U. Not U, but U. And it invariably makes the sound U. But, similar to A, there is a long variant with an accent mark, indicating that the vowel is to be emphasized or held approximately twice as long as its unaccented variant. So we have U and U. Very good. Now, let's try to practice the pronunciation of the vowels together a few times, if you don't mind. A. A. E. E. I. O. U. U. Very good. Once more. A. A. E. E. I. O. U. U. Marvelous. You're catching on already. Very good. Now, as promised, let me teach you a few elementary Elvish greetings. One moment while I erase my board. Good. Now here is our first Elvish greeting. Namarie. Namarie. Here you can see the accent mark indicates that this is a long A and therefore gets emphasis. Na, ma, di. Once again, the accent mark above the E indicates that it is a long vowel and so is pronounced like the A in lake. Namarie. Namarie, my friend. Very good. Now, Namarie, much like the Hawaiian language in your human world, the word aloha, can be used as both an opening and a closing greeting. It literally means be well, but when you use it at the opening of a conversation, it has the connotation of well met. Whereas when you use it at the end of a conversation, it has the connotation of fare thee well. Good. Even in modern times, Sindarin speakers sometimes revert to this Quenya phrase. It has a certain element of cultural and poetic cachet, and It is a linguistic element of some emotional import to my people. Good, I will erase this, and we will learn our next phrase. Aya, aya. Aya is a somewhat more casual greeting. Generally, we translate aya as something like hail, well met. Or, to put it in more casual parlance, hey you guys. Aya, a-iya, aya. Good, do you see how these two vowel sounds, the R and the E, elide together to turn into what we call a diphthong? Yes, that's another important characterization of Quenya pronunciation. Aya. Good, wonderful. There is your more casual hello. I will erase it and teach you our third and final greeting of the class. Mara re. Mara re. Here you see we have the accent mark on the first A of Mara, indicating it is a long vowel and is emphasized. We also have the accent mark over the E in de, indicating that it is pronounced like the A in lake. Put together we have the phrase Mara re. Mara re means good day. Yes, literally. In terms of level of formality, it is somewhere between namarie and aya. Not too terribly formal or archaic sounding, but not too overly casual either. One more time together. Mara re. Your pronunciation is superb. That's an element that many students at your level really struggle with. Elvish is very, how can I say, sort of edgeless. All smooth curves and lines and flowing vowel sounds. And some people say that there isn't much to grab onto, but I find sufficient study puts that rumor to rest. That you appreciate not only the flowing beauty but also the syntactical logic of Quenya. Good. Now I want to move on to some slightly more complex phrases. But first I need to explain an important grammatical concept to you. You see, Elvish is what linguists would call a highly inflected language. Now what does that mean, an inflected language? What that means is that grammatical elements are introduced to Elvish sentences not through the introduction of entirely separate words, but through sticking different endings on the verbs within that sentence. Sometimes these are also known as agglutinative languages. Another example of an agglutinative language might be, for example, Japanese in your human world, if you are familiar with that tongue. Now, I will give you our first sentence, and then I will explain how the inflections in that sentence are dictating the grammar and the syntactical meaning. Man eseliana. Man eseliana. Man eseliana. What is your name? Man eseliana. Good. Now some elements of this will be fairly familiar from the perspective of an English speaker. For example, this word at the beginning of the sentence, man, means what or who. Yes, the question word is at the beginning of the sentence, just as in English. However, one thing that might feel somewhat more difficult to grasp from your human perspective might be the placement of na at the end of the sentence, because na means to be. Yes, so in English, while you would say, what is your name? The Elvish equivalent is what your name is. Good. What your name is, man eseliana. Now, here is our noun, name. Actually, the Elvish word for name is just esse. Esse. That being the case, what exactly is this peculiar element stuck on the end, this L-Y-A, this lia? That, my friend, is the inflection. We are simply sticking another grammatical element onto the end of a word in order to change its grammatical role. In this case, L-Y-A on the end of a noun indicates your. Eselia, your name. Man eseliana. Man eseliana. Good. One more time. Man eseliana. What is your name? With the L-Y-A at the end of esse indicating your. Very good. Now, you might perhaps wish to know how to respond to this question should it be asked of you. This is how you would respond. My name is Nanye. Nanye Ancalima. Man eseliana. Nanye. Very good. Very, very good. So you simply fill in your name at the end. As my name is Ancalima, I simply state Nanye Ancalima. Nanye Ancalima. Very good. Very, very good. Now, na, as we've already discussed, is. To be, is, are, am. So then, what is this bit at the end, this nye? Nanye. What is the nye? Well, similar to L-Y-A, lia, indicating your. N-Y-E, nye, indicates mine. So nanye indicates mine is. Man eseliana. What is your essay, your name? Nanye, mine is. Ancalima. Good. Are you starting to see the agglutinative nature of Quenya? To indicate your, we simply place lia on the end of the noun. To indicate my, we simply place nye on the end. Good. There is a logic to it, foreign as it may seem to most human ears. Now, as indicated before, you can also put different agglutinative endings on the end of verbs to change the grammatical structure of the sentence. I'll start with a very simple example. Quenyan eldarin. Quenyan eldarin. Good. Quenya. Now, the verb here is simply this part. Quenya minus the final N. Quenya means to understand. Eldarin means elvish. So in this sentence, someone or something understands elvish. But how do we know what the subject is? How do we know who or what understands elvish? We know because of this N at the end. An N at the end of a verb means I. Quenya means to understand. Quenyan means I understand. Quenyan eldarin means I understand elvish. Shall we practice together? Quenyan eldarin. Quenyan eldarin. Good. One more time. Quenyan eldarin. Excellent. Excellent. Now, let's look at a very similar phrase. Quenyan eldarin. Quenyan eldarin. Now, as you may have guessed, once again we have a verb. This verb is quet, which means to speak. Quet. Now this en on the end is performing the same function as the n on the end of quenyan. In this case, because the verb ends in a consonant, it is not simply an n, but an en, and that is for ease of pronunciation. Quenyan means I speak. Quenyan eldarin means I speak elvish. Let's try it together a few times. Quenyan eldarin. Quenyan eldarin. Quenyan eldarin. Very good. Excellent. This is our second to last sentence, and it is the most complex grammatical structure we will be covering during our first lesson. If you find it a bit opaque, a bit difficult to understand, please do not feel any sense of shame. It is intentionally challenging bit of syntax here. Ma ista quit eldarin. It's a question. Ma ista quit eldarin. Ma ista quit eldarin. Ma ista quit eldarin. Now, if we break this sentence down a little bit first, we have ma. Ma simply indicates that we are about to ask a question. It is signaling to you that the speaker is inquiring or requesting information. Ista is one of two verbs in the sentence. Ista means know how to or are able to. However, you'll notice we have this extra L on the end. Like the N on the end of a word indicating I, This L on the end of a verb indicates you. Maestal. Do you know how? Maestal. Do you know how? Good. Now, quet we already covered. Quet means to speak. You will notice here quet is uninflected. It does not have any grammatical element on the end to indicate I or you. That's because that job has already been performed by istal. We already know we are speaking about you. Maestal quet. Do you know how to speak Eldarin, Elvish? Maestal quet Eldarin. Maestal quet Eldarin. Maestal quet Eldarin. Very good. Excellent. Now, in order to end our first session on a positive note, I want to introduce you to our last sentence, which I encourage you to use with your family and loved ones. Meliniel. Meliniel. One word, but it conveys multitude of information. Meliniel. Let's break it down a little bit now. The base verb here is mel. Mel means love. Love. You may perhaps have heard it in the Quenya phrase, melon. Melon means my friend. It comes from this root word, love, a person you love. Melon, my friend. There's also the more modern version, melanin. Melanin, my friend, my person whom I love. So mel is love. Now, we also have nye. In this case, it's inye. Because mel ends in a consonant, it would be very difficult to pronounce without an interceding vowel. So we place an I in front of the nye to make it easier to pronounce. Melinye. Melinye. I love. I love Melinye. The L on the end. We've covered this before. The L on the end is you. Melinyel. I love you. Melinyel. I love you. Melinyel. I love you. Very good. You did an excellent job today. Yes, I find you to be a most promising student. I'm looking forward to our time together. Now, if possible, I would like you to come see me 3 times a week for between half an hour and an hour. 1 time a week simply isn't enough time to practice speaking. Yes, you need to make it a regular habit in order for it to become instinctual. In order for you to begin not just to speak Elvish, but to think in Elvish. And that's how you know that the language is truly taking root inside you. Good. So for now I will bid you farewell, or perhaps I should say, Namarie. Namarie. Namarie, my friend. Be well.